Welcome back to Dorroro. Last time, our duo left the treasure cave and continued to set out and hunt down demons. Hyakimaru and Dorroro seek the swordsmith named Munetsuna to repair the swords in Hyakimaru's prosthetic, but the villagers tell them Munetsuna's swords are poor and his daughter Okowa is ugly. They find neither is true, although their house is filled with grotesque Hyotoko masks. When Munetsuna takes the swords to a temple to be purified, an Amanajaku casts a spell over Hyakimaru, who begins to say and do the opposite of what he intends, ending his journey and deciding to marry with Okowa. Feeling rejected, Dorroro plans to throw away Hyakimaru's swords, but she encounters Munetsuna at the foundry where she tells him how she feels. The next morning, Dorroro realizes she and everyone in the village have been saying the opposite of what they mean, and that somehow Munetsuna's masks enabled the truth to be told. Taking a mask, Dorroro goes to the temple, but the Amanajaku causes Hyakimaru to attack Dorroro until Munetsuna, also wearing a mask, knocks out the Amanajaku. Munetsuna explains that the mischievous Amanajaku was sealed under a statue in the temple, but it escaped. Okowa then realizes they were protected by the Hyotoko masks, and Munetsuna uprights the statue, resealing the Amanajaku. Okowa and Hyakimaru break their engagement, but she later marries a young man from the village. Hyakimaru refits the repaired swords and continues his journey with Dorroro. Tahomaru and his aides observe misfortune befalling Daigo's villages, and since it started at the borders and is spreading inwards, they suspect the demons are upset Hyakimaru isn't dead. Back in his compound, Kagemitsu Daigo realizes his deal with the demons has been revoked since the destruction of the Goddess of Mercy statue and the days of prosperity are over. Meanwhile, Hyakimaru and Dorroro encounter Daispot Saburota, who is hunting a local demon that ate his mother. They lay in wait, and a gigantic Nue appears. Hyakimaru goes to fight it, but is intercepted by Saburota, who now delights in seeing the demon devour terrified travelers. During the fight, Hyakimaru and Dorroro fall down a rocky embankment, and Dororo's arm becomes trapped. Hyakimaru is unable to free her despite breaking his left prosthetic arm, and subterranean water begins to rise. Suddenly, the Biwahoshi appears and frees Dorroro, though his sword is broken. Again, determined to regain his body, Hyakimaru attacks and badly wounds the Nue. It eats Saburota in desperation, absorbing him into its body. Hyakimaru finally slays it, however no part of his body is returned to him, even when he cuts the Nue to pieces, much to the horror of Dorroro. The Biwahoshi watches sadly as the brutality results in Hyakimaru's aura gaining a red heart. Thinking he has a heavy fate to bear, Hyakimaru realizes he must confront Kagemitsu Daigo to have his body fully restored. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is your favorite anime protagonist power-up? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out. Now, back to the recap. Hyakimaru approaches Daigo's territory, and Dorroro is saddened his single-minded desire to recover his body parts. They are recognized by a villager who notifies Kagemitsu Daigo. Meanwhile, the situation worsens in Daigo's territory. Villages that have become diseased are burned and their inhabitants killed. Able-bodied men are conscripted for the war against the threatening Asakura clan. Horses, including a nursing mother horse named Midoro, are taken as part of the war effort. Tahomaru decides to make Mutsu and Hyogo to stop Hyakimaru himself. Along the way, Mutsu and Hyogo recall their capture after seeing their parents killed and later being freed by Kagemitsu to be raised alongside Tahomaru. They find Hyakimaru and Dorroro at a ravine littered with soldiers' bodies and attack him together. Hyakimaru severs Mutsu's right arm and Hyogo's left arm, and again cuts Tahomaru's right eye as Dorroro looks on in horror at Hyakimaru's savagery. Suddenly, a group of men sent by Kagemitsu to protect their prince intervene. The leader sends Midoro loaded with explosives towards Hyakumaru, killing the horse and blowing Hyakumaru into the ravine. Dorroro is captured by the villagers, and Tahomaru is subdued by a dart when he refuses to leave. Later, spirits possess Midoro's body parts, turning it into a flaming horse. Tahomaru's group return home with Dorroro, while Kagemitsu prepares to repel an impending attack by the Asakura clan, planning to fight at Benmon. Hyakumaru is enraged Dorroro has been kidnapped, his rage drawing the demon horse to him. Tahomaru visits Hyogo's sister Mutsu, who lost her right arm and is also weak from a disease she was hiding, but she refuses to see him as she won't risk infection. Meanwhile, Nui no Kata frees Dorroro in gratitude for providing companionship for her son Hyakumaru and leaves with her. Their boat is smashed in the strong current, and they are rescued by Daigo refugees, including the Biwahoshi. Nui no Kata decides to stay to help care for the sick and wounded. Mutsu leaves the compound, badly ill, prompting Tahomaru and Hyogo to go after her. Elsewhere, Hyakumaru has joined with the demonic horse Midoro and is cutting a bloody swath through Daigo's soldiers, seeking Dorroro. Mutsu staggers to the demon temple and offers herself to the 12th and final demon to protect the land and its people. Tahomaru and Hyogo arrive to see her offer rejected. However, when Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo later intercept Hyakumaru, their wounds have been healed by the demon. Mutsu and Hyogo each bear one of Hyakumaru's real arms, and Tahomaru has his 2 eyes. Daigo villagers near the border prepare for the impending war, and Midoro's foal runs away. Hyakumaru attacks Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo to reclaim his eyes and arms. Meanwhile, Nui no Kata and Dorroro arrive at the battle but are held back by the Biwahoshi. Midoro attacks Mutsu and Hyogo, but is distracted by the arrival of her foal and is wounded. Enraged, Midoro tears off Hyogo's head and crushes Mutsu, but their bodies are controlled by the demon, which uses their arms to fatally wound Midoro. On their deaths, Hyakumaru's arms return to him, and he grabs the 2 sword blades that were in his prosthesis with his bare hands to keep fighting Tahomaru. Confused by emotions when he sees Nui no Kata and Dorroro approach, Hyakumaru runs off with Tahomaru in pursuit. The villagers, Biwahoshi, Nui no Kata, and Dorroro debate the value of one life against the needs of many, and conclude only what is gained by their own hands will last. At the border, Kagemitsu Daigo leads his army forward, determined to defeat the Asakura and give meaning to his decisions. Hyakumaru follows Tahomaru to the Daigo castle and their fight resumes. During the struggle, they knock over a candle stand, setting the castle on fire. The smoke alerts Dorroro and Nui no Kata, who are drawn by concern for the young brothers. But let's stop for a second to give a shout out as promised, this time to Mr. X on our Valx Love video. They said, I like what I see. Thanks for commenting, and now back to the action. Tahomaru and Hyakumaru continue their fierce battle inside the burning Daigo castle, each believing it is their inherited domain. Meanwhile, Nui no Kata leaves the Biwahoshi and Dorroro while she enters the castle through a hidden tunnel and meets Chukai. Above them, Hyakumaru finally defeats Tahomaru but does not kill him. The demon, with Hyakumaru's eyes, tries to take control of Tahomaru, but he removes the eyes, which return to Hyakumaru. After Hyakumaru slays the demon, he becomes whole for the first time, and Jukai gives him a newly carved Goddess of Mercy statue. Dorroro and Hyakumaru are reunited as the castle burns. Nui no Kata tends to Tahomaru as he dies in her arms, and the castle collapses. Meanwhile, the last demon statue falls in the Hall of Hell, and Kagemitsu Daigo leads his army against the Asakura, losing many of his men. Later, Dorroro proposes to retrieve the treasure to help the Daigo refugees, while Hyakumaru finds his father wounded but defiant in the Hall of Hell. However, when Hyakumaru departs without killing him, leaving the Goddess of Mercy statue behind, Kagemitsu realizes if he had not made the pact with the demons, Hyakumaru may have had the ability to save his land. Hyakumaru departs alone, leaving Dorroro behind, knowing, however, that they will meet again in the future. In the final scene, some years later, Dorroro, a young woman, runs to greet Hyakumaru, who smiles as he turns to see her. What a great ending. Go check out our other recaps and stay tuned for daily anime content. See ya later, anime fans.